The reality that is the DC universe is made up of an interconnected web of infinite, overlapping timelines, called hypertime. Every alternate timeline and universe that has ever existed within DC Comics still exists parallel to one another, and will always exist in some way, shape, or form. The hypertime branches out, creating a new alternate timeline whenever a major personal crossroads is met, and a significant decision is made by our beloved DC characters. Hypertime is an expansion of DC's multiverse concept. So there are infinite ongoing universes, infinite timelines, housing an endless number of alternate versions of DC characters. Among these characters are anomalies, living paradoxes that exist outside of time and experience it in a completely different way than everyone else, following their own set of rules, or lack thereof. The primary example would be Eobard Thawne, also known as Professor Zoom or the Reverse Flash. At the end of 2011's Flashpoint storyline, which I covered last year, he was killed by the Flashpoint timeline's Batman, Dr. Thomas Wayne, Bruce Wayne's father. Reverse Flash would be resurrected, and seeking revenge against Thomas for killing him, Zoom would ensure that he would be saved, and turned into a living paradox as well, forcing Thomas to remain in his nightmare of a timeline, with his son Bruce forever lost to him. Because of his endless need to save his son and destroy his own universe, one that was broken and shouldn't have existed to begin with, Thomas, as a living paradox, threatens hypertime and the fabric of every known reality, something that was made the central focus of the storyline I wish to review for you today. Flashpoint's sequel released in 2022, Flashpoint Beyond. Now, before I get into the nitty-gritty of the story, I want to first quickly bring up another story arc from 2017 called The Button, that had Bruce Wayne, Batman of the primary DC timeline, find a mysterious yellow smiley face button in the Batcave. He would throw it down next to the mask of the Psycho Pirate, who, for those of you who don't know, is a psychic who has the power to manipulate and control emotions, form mental links with people across realities, and at times has even shown the power to travel between dimensions. When the button falls close to Psycho Pirate's Medusa mask, it causes a lightning bolt to strike Batman, and he briefly sees a vision of his father from the Flashpoint timeline. Wanting to know what the button is and where exactly it came from, Bruce would enlist the aid of Barry Allen, the Flash, to help him. Professor Zoom would arrive in the Batcave before Barry does, and Batman is forced to fight the 25th century villain. Thawne finds and tears up the letter Bruce had been given by his father at the end of Flashpoint. What a dick move. Obviously, Batman doesn't stand a chance against the speedster's powers, getting his shit kicked in, but like always, Thawne is blinded by his ego, and is too busy toying with his prey, which gives Batman an opening to nail his foot to the ground with a batarang, and get a few good shots in. Professor Zoom would locate the mysterious smiley face button and pick it up. He is quickly teleported away, and when he returns, half his body withers to the bone by an unseen force he refers to as God. This force was eventually revealed to be Dr. Manhattan from Alan Moore's Watchmen. The button led into the crossover from 2017 called Doomsday Clock, which officially integrated the characters of Watchmen into the greater DC multiverse. Dr. Manhattan was actually the one responsible for the Flashpoint event in the first place, which led to the creation of the New 52 timeline and beyond. He altered reality just because he wanted to. Dr. Manhattan is omnipotent. He can see the past, present, and future. You don't question his logic. His logic questions you. Anyways, the body of Reverse Flash is seriously fucked up basically just cloth and bones with a bit of meat left on the one side. It's a nasty sight, but I'm sure he'll find a way to walk it off. He always does. Barry would arrive and go to the Justice League Watchtower to use the cosmic treadmill to figure out who or what killed Thawne. Batman would join him, feeling it's his case too, and he wants to see it to its conclusion. He would cling onto the cosmic treadmill with a rope batarang, like he's a Batman balloon, which is pretty funny. As the two travel through hypertime, they experience turbulence due to a time storm and find themselves crashing into the Flashpoint universe within the Batcave of Thomas Wayne. Bruce comes face to face with this version of his father for the first time. Initially, Thomas doesn't believe Bruce or Barry are real. Barry is in disbelief. He explains that Flashpoint was never its own world, just an alternate version of history. Somehow, something has been holding it all together, keeping it on life support. The war between the Atlanteans and Amazons is still raging in this timeline, and a joint team of assassins from both armies have been sent to the Batcave to kill Batman. Thomas has covered the walls of the cave with explosives, and his intention was to set them all off when the assassins arrived, taking himself out along with them. As Barry reassembles the cosmic treadmill, Bruce and his father share memories they have of one another, and hold off the Amazon and Atlantean warriors together. Once Flash finishes his repairs, he comes to realize that the Flashpoint timeline is beginning to collapse in on itself. Whatever was holding it together has decided to let go. Bruce pleads with his father and asks him to come with them, but Thomas pushes Bruce away. He tells Bruce that having him as a son was the greatest gift he ever received. He demands that Bruce give up his crusade and stop being Batman. Thomas wants him to find happiness in his life, focus on raising his own child, and to let the Batman die with him. As Batman and the Flash disappear back into the time stream, Thomas Wayne and his timeline are completely erased, but very quickly after returning home, we can see how devastated Bruce is by his father's actions and final words. Bruce is desperate to find a way to save his father, and just can't seem to let him go. The next night, when he sees the bat signal in the sky, he thinks back to what his father had said to him, puts his head down, and chooses to ignore it. To preserve his father's life, he couldn't survive outside the Flashpoint timeline. Bruce would use artifacts stolen from the Time Masters, a group of time travelers that study and essentially police disruptions to the space-time continuum, led by the legendary Rip Hunter, to trap the Flashpoint timeline into an unassuming snow globe as a pocket universe. This was done using the broken wristwatch in their lab that was once owned by Dr. Manhattan's ex-girlfriend, Janie Slater. This wristwatch was permeated with anti-crisis energy, one of two forms of opposing energies that steer virtually everything in the DC universe, and can be used to shape and recreate entire multiverses. If all of this sounds complicated, that's because it is. It's all fictional, science-y mumbo-jumbo, utter bullshit at the end of the day, but it's important to not get too caught up on it. Suspend your disbelief. All of this time travel and multiverse stuff is just a tool for the story. It's not what matters. The characters and their personal journeys within it do. So yeah, Bruce Wayne, much like Barry Allen was in the original Flashpoint story with his mother, is being selfish and reckless in a desperate attempt to save his father. Like I already mentioned, Thomas Wayne has become a living paradox due to the actions of Professor Zoom. His very existence threatens hypertime because of his rejection of his own reality, his obsession with outright destroying it so his son may live. After stealing the snow globe and wristwatch from the Time Masters, Bruce Wayne, Batman, is visited by the Time Masters member Corky Baxter, who warns him that Rip Hunter is on his way to take the items back, by violent means if necessary. In the Flashpoint timeline, Thomas Wayne wakes up to find himself in his somehow restored reality. Gotham Judge Harvey Dent is throwing the book at Thomas, going after him for murdering Joe Chill, the kidnapping of his twin children Debbie and Dexter at the hands of his deranged wife Martha, who became the Joker in this universe, Debbie taking her own life following the trauma, unable to get the Joker's laughter out of her head, and Dent's wife Gilda being placed in Arkham Asylum, having gone insane after the whole ordeal. All of this is pinned on Thomas Wayne. He's made liable for everything. Thomas is bewildered. He wonders how he and the rest of his timeline still exist after Barry seemingly fixed it. He breaks into the apartment of Barry Allen in Central City to explain everything to him, his role as the Flash in the other timeline, his powers, how he went back in time to save his mother, the ripple effect through time it caused. He tries to convince Barry to help him, much like Barry had convinced him in the original Flashpoint story. Of course, it doesn't play out as smoothly. Barry thinks he's insane and believes Thomas Wayne is a senseless killer from what he has seen about Batman on the news. This isn't going to work, and it's not like Thomas can just drug him against his will, force him onto a chair, and get him electrocuted to get his powers back. Oh my god, that's exactly what he's going to do. On top of a Wayne Casino building, Batman attempts to recreate the accident that gave Barry Allen his powers, connecting him to the Speed Force so everything can be repaired. Before the experiment can be completed, however, a harpoon is shot through the jars of chemicals. When the chair is struck by lightning, Barry's flesh is barbecued to a crisp, with his brains and other innards melted into a pasty goo. Harvey Dent, who was on his way to the casino to arrest Thomas, is also killed in a car explosion by the same person who shot the harpoon. Thankfully, Dent's son Dexter, who was with him at the time, is saved by Batman. Batman confronts the one responsible, a surface assassin hired by the King of Atlantis himself, Aquaman, to make sure Barry Allen couldn't receive his powers. The assassin taunts Batman, telling him how much fun killing is to him, how he loves being a monster, and that he and Batman are a lot alike. He suggests that the two of them should team up together, kill together. He also asks Batman if he has ever seen the life escape the eyes of a child, which sends Thomas into a rage. He kills the assassin by quickly depressurizing his suit. Something I think Flashpoint Beyond does really well is compare the two versions of Batman, Bruce Wayne and Thomas Wayne. Having met his son, Thomas knows that Bruce is the kind of Batman he never was, never could be. He believes Bruce turned the symbol of Batman into what it should have been from the start. Thomas has become corrupted by his. He uses Batman as a sinister weapon to hunt down and eradicate evil, whereas Bruce has maintained a strong moral code and uses Batman to save people from a similar fate he experienced at the hands of a criminal. He's a protector, a friend. Thomas's Batman is just bitter, a poison within Gotham City who leaves a trail of bodies in his wake, irredeemable, unrepairable. Thomas is still puzzled that his timeline exists. He feels someone may have gone back in time to save Barry Allen's mother again, maybe the Reverse Flash, wanting revenge against him for stabbing him in the back with that Atlantean sword. Regardless, Aquaman is his only lead, and Batman travels to Great Britain to face him. The Atlanteans had taken it over from the Amazons, and had given the world an ultimatum: surrender or drown. Wonder Woman is being held prisoner, tied to a pole by her own lasso of truth as water slowly rises around her. Batman arrives to put holes in her captors and makes a deal with Diana. If she lets him borrow her lasso to make Aquaman give him information he needs, he will let her live and she can free her other Amazon sisters before the entire island sinks into the ocean. After that, he couldn't care less what she does, because to him, nothing else matters. Diana agrees, and Batman uses the lasso of truth to ask Aquaman about the assassin he sent to Gotham. Surprisingly, Arthur reveals that he wasn't the one who hired him. While Aquaman is distracted fighting Batman, Wonder Woman grabs Aquaman's trident and plunges it into him, skewering him like a big fish. Thomas would return to Gotham to deal with a serial murderer the press have been calling the Clockwork Killer, who cuts open the bodies of their victims and replaces all of their vital organs with clock pieces. The killer has been targeting various individuals who could affect time in other timelines. Captain Atom, the Lord of Time, and Dr. Time, just to name a few. Time-traveling champions from the future Thomas had been informed about, such as the Legion of Superheroes, Hourman, and Booster Gold, are nowhere to be seen as well, which can't be a good sign. The largest of his Wayne casinos is bombed, and at the ruins of it, Thomas learns from the new police commissioner that there is an inmate at Arkham Asylum named Psycho Pirate, who claims to have come from hypertime to escape a dark crisis, and that he believes Bruce Wayne is Batman. Thomas goes to Arkham to speak to Psycho Pirate, but sadly finds him hanging in his cell, with writing on the walls regarding Bruce Wayne being Batman, and referencing the various other Flashes throughout reality, among other things. Batman walks down the asylum's halls and speaks with another inmate, Gilda Dent. Gilda knows Thomas is Batman and blames him for driving his own wife insane, causing the death of her daughter and the recent death of her husband. She calls Thomas a bad father, which infuriates him, enough to punch a hole through the window of her cell door. Gilda then snaps and smashes her face off the broken glass, disfiguring half of it and resembling her fallen husband from another timeline. Frustrated, Batman vents on a group of criminals, mugging a defenseless woman. As he beats each one of them up, he breaks down their injuries in precise medical detail, which is gruesome. He tries to kill the last one, Digger Harkness, saying the kill will be for Bruce, but is stopped by Superman, who reminds him that everything matters. Everything. Subject 1, Kal-El, has beefed up a little bit since the last time we saw him. He has decided to use his gifts to become the protector of Earth. He does this following the death of Lois Lane. She was the daughter of the general in charge of the top-secret super soldier program, Project Superman, that Kal was forcefully a part of, after his rocket crash-landed in Metropolis and killed a bunch of people 30 years ago. Kal had fallen for Lois, but tragically, she was inadvertently killed following an attack Kal had made against Subject Zero, a lieutenant named Neil Sinclair that was the first test subject of the Project Superman program. Subject Zero had similar powers to that of Kal-El, but had grown mentally unstable and was deemed a failure. His appearance with the long spiky hair reminds me of Raditz from Dragon Ball Z, or better yet, Super Saiyan 3 Goku. Anywho, Lois had died in Kal's arms, following his fight with Subject Zero. She told him that saving people was the right thing to do, and he should learn to control his powers, use them for good. Lois's death was the motivating factor behind Superman's return at the end of the original Flashpoint story. So Superman would incapacitate Batman and take him to a special place called the Oasis, a sanctuary for the people of Earth who have been neglected and abused, much like Kal was. It's run by not only Superman, but Poison Ivy and Jason Woodrue, Swamp Thing in the Flashpoint timeline. Much like the crystals found in the Fortress of Solitude, Superman would feed one into the plants that make up the Oasis, and it plays a pre-recorded message from his late father, Jor-El. Jor-El states that Krypton is dying, and that the Kryptonians need a new home. Kal was sent to Earth to disarm the humans so the rest of the Kryptonians could arrive and conquer the planet for themselves. It was a planned extraterrestrial invasion all along, and Jor-El has essentially become General Zod in this timeline. The invasion will happen in 5 days, and Batman is asked to join a team of heroes that will try to fend them off. Just like in the original Flashpoint, though, Batman refuses, having a mission of his own to accomplish. He also believes it'd be suicide to fight an army of Supermen that could number in the thousands. Another victim of the Clockwork Killer is revealed to be Eobard Thawne. Man, this guy dies a lot. Clearly, he isn't responsible for what's been happening this time. Dr. Wayne performs an autopsy on Thawne's body, removing all of its clock piece entrails. Batman realizes that all of the pieces are from the same clock, and the final piece is missing, but one found in the grandfather clock in his derelict mansion. He knows who has been responsible for all of these murders. After saving Dexter Dent from the car explosion that killed his father, Thomas would leave the young child in the hands of his chief of security, Oswald Cobblepot. While Batman had been out investigating everything, Oswald would take it upon himself to teach the kid how to use guns, arm explosives, and pick locks. Dexter would find his way into the Batcave and suit up into this timeline's version of Robin. I like how he steals one of Batman's red utility belts and wears it like a bandolier because he's so small. Using his new skills, Dexter would travel to Arkham Asylum to free his mother, not realizing she had been disfigured and escaped her restraints. She would introduce him to her new friend, the Joker, who enters her cell via a hidden door. We would come to learn that Harvey covered up files on his wife. Gilda had always had two sides to her, a second personality. She would perform violent acts against her children, and that there was evidence that Dexter's sister didn't kill herself after all, so it's safe to assume that Dexter's rescue mission wasn't done out of love, but out of fear towards his mother. Scary and sad. Joker prepares to kill Dexter with a knife, and the young boy logically backs away from her into the hallway. Batman smashes through the glass ceiling of Arkham. The artwork here by Alejandro Germanico Benito Gonzalez is absolutely outstanding. It shows all the different eras of Batman, all the different versions throughout time, in each shard of falling glass. I love how it's all put together and positioned. The colorists did a great job too, and this image is powerful. It signifies there is a lot more on the line than what meets the eye. Martha Wayne, the Joker, had been living in the walls of Arkham since she had seemingly died from her fall. Thomas didn't check on the body, just left her for dead. Hey, this Batman's a great surgeon. I never said he was a great detective. Martha had followed a stream from the cave she fell into, which led to an underground passage into Arkham. She had been listening in on all of the crazies in the asylum, finding out what made each one tick, and through the ramblings of the psycho pirate in particular, learned about Barry Allen, what he had done to prevent this timeline from existing, and to ensure that she and her husband continued to exist, targeted everyone who could destroy the timeline again. In Joker's lair, we see that she has stolen a time sphere, a time-traveling machine she had people destined to be time travelers build for her before killing them, that she wants to use to go back in time and save Bruce with. She wants her and her husband to be the ones to rescue him, even if it costs the entire universe to do it. It looks as though Thomas agrees to her demands and plants a smooch on her. Ah, what a cute couple. Back in the main DC timeline, the snow globe containing the Flashpoint universe begins to crack and release temporal energy. Rip Hunter arrives to confront Batman and demands that Bruce return the snow globe before it shatters. If the Flashpoint timeline isn't properly reintegrated into hypertime, then it will tie all of the timelines within reality together into a big knot and cause a temporal disaster, the likes of which has never been seen. This is all because Thomas Wayne has rejected his own existence, his own universe, and wants it destroyed. Rip tells Bruce that he has to let his father go. Back in Flashpoint, Dexter Dent is held at gunpoint by his mother, and he asks Batman if he is going to die if the timeline is altered. Thomas tells him he won't die, just cease to exist altogether. Conflicted and essentially about to witness the death of another child right in front of his eyes, he turns to Martha and says that while they may not have been able to save Bruce, they can still save Dexter. Though reluctant at first, Martha agrees and kills Gilda. The time sphere explodes, and Thomas, Martha, and Dexter flee the collapsing Arkham Asylum, gazing over the rubble hand in hand, like a family. Martha is presumed dead in the explosion, but instead of being taken to prison, is placed in a special cell in the Batcave by her husband. It's made to look like a normal room. She's given food to eat and books to read, slowly regaining her sanity. Thomas and Dexter give her company, and she takes on a motherly role, reminding Dexter to tie his shoelaces. I've always loved that cliché, so heartwarming. Batman and Dexter, now officially taking on the Robin title, go out to help the other heroes fight off the Kryptonian invasion of Earth. Martha tells them that she knows where to get some kryptonite if they need it. With Thomas Wayne finally accepting his timeline, reinvigorated with the thought of keeping it safe, the Flashpoint universe stabilizes itself, to the surprise of Rip Hunter. Bruce says he had been counting on it all this time. Though a risky gamble, he knew his father would come around. The odds were in his favor. After reading that letter from his father Barry had given him, it explained how meeting Barry gave Thomas a reason to live, that you can not only live for those you've lost, but also those you still have, and it took Dexter to remind him of this. I admit Flashpoint Beyond has a lot more nonsense in it, concepts related to time travel and the multiverse that are tougher to wrap your head around than the ones from that original story. In that regard, I don't think it's as good as the original Flashpoint. You need to read up on a bit more stuff beforehand to truly enjoy it, but I think it's still a very entertaining and emotional narrative that has a major impact on the greater DC universe as a whole. Just like 2011's Flashpoint led to the New 52 relaunch, 2022's Flashpoint Beyond led to the currently ongoing new Golden Age crossover event, which has reintroduced readers to the Justice Society of America and several other characters from DC's Golden Age. Flashpoint Beyond can get a little confusing, and to those of you not as familiar with the DC universe, maybe even a little pretentious in areas, but I love how it picks up the pieces of the broken Flashpoint timeline and attempts to bandage those wounds, to numb all the sadness, pain, and despair found within its universe, try to show it the light again, show its characters love and compassion once more. Just like the first Flashpoint, this one is all about sacrifice too. Bruce Wayne is sacrificing all of reality, gambling it on the actions of his father. It's reckless and stupid, but that makes it interesting. I find it fitting that he is essentially doing what his father did for him in the original story, at least for an alternate version of him from a different timeline. And with Thomas, his sacrifice starts out as the same one from the first story, to erase his existence, and his timeline's existence, to save his son. But by the end, he experiences character growth, has learned to become more like the Batman Bruce would be, and makes the decision to sacrifice Bruce for Dexter, realizing that his timeline, his universe, would be better off for it. Let me know your thoughts on Flashpoint Beyond down in the comments section below. I will join in the discussion when and where I can. I want to thank you very much for watching this video review, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to show your support to me and my channel, you can do so by subscribing, sharing my videos to anyone you feel might enjoy them, and by becoming a producer over on Patreon if you can. I will see you all in the next one. Take care, and always stay nerdy.